afternoon. This is the knitting news from Knit Happens Teesside for the 36th week of 2024. The other night at knitting, Jill was working on her blue lace cardigan. And we did have a discussion about how many sideways lace cardigans she's made from the Debbie Bliss pattern. The lace sideways cardigan, that I think is actually called that. And she didn't shrink it. I've been telling you wrong all this time. She wore it out. She made one, wore it so much that she had to make another one because she wore it out. And then she got some more lace yarn and made another one. And we think the total is about 4. Helen was finishing off Cedric's trousers. Cedric's trousers fit beautifully now. They've got some bottom shaping. And he didn't go back to his parents because his parents were away for a week. So he stayed at Auntie Helen's for another week. Now she's looking at making a hat in colour work because I'm thinking about Cedric, my teddy bear. Hector's hat is the first colour work that Helen has done. And she wasn't quite sure if she'd be able to do it and thought it was ambitious, and maybe it was, but she made a good job of it. So now she's looking to make a hat for a human that's also got colour work. And I think she's using the same pattern, but she's using her Wee County yarns, the fancier yarn. It's proper wool, proper Shetland wool. So she had lots, because they're in those little tiny balls, she has quite a lot of them that she's collected. Quite a lot of colours. So all the colours were laid on the table and she wanted kind of autumnal shades. So we were trying to help her decide, and I think she came to a conclusion. So that'll be one of her upcoming projects. I was working on my baby blanket, and I think unless a rogue ball of yarn turns up, I think I've used all the kind of ecru colour. So I'll show you my blanket, and I'm very pleased with it. Mostly. Coffee with a touch of vanilla. Again, it's got a bit boring on the drinks, hasn't it? Stitched by Mrs. D, which is a knitting podcast. She's discovered some Nescafe Gold instant coffee with vanilla, so I'm going to grab some of that as soon as I go near a supermarket. Hopefully they sell it. Kind of like my coffee black, but with a sort of a sweet tones. Right. Have you ever played yarn chicken? I'm quite sure you have, and quite often have won. And you probably have too, and on occasion you've probably lost. Well, yesterday I played yarn chicken twice, and I lost both times. So this is my blanket, which is the Smooth Fox Beginner's Round Ripple, and it folds. It's got a bit creased in my bag. It folds quite nicely into a semicircle. I wasn't sure if I was going to get round on my last round, and the end of the round must be that way. The end of the arm's there, and the end of the round is there. So on the right side, I was right in the first place, wasn't I? So really, that's okay. That's not a problem, is it? All I have to do is unravel that one row, and then I was planning on finishing off with my dusty pink, and hopefully that'll be enough to do the edge that I decide to do. So I've shown them before, but they're nice, aren't they? So I feel like I'm extremely failing at the granny duties at the moment, because the other one that I ran out on that's the front. This has been, I think this is why I didn't finish it off, because I could see what was coming. That's the sleeve. That's the back. That's the other front. And that's the other sleeve, which is all of the pieces, which you can see are all still on holders. And then what happens? So this is my end, my working end. It's got all ravelled and everything else. It's not enough to join all them pieces and do about 6 rows. So I can either, I might like people's opinions on this, really. I'll mull it over. I'm not making it out of the question altogether to just rip it all back and start again and do the size underneath. The lower size, the smaller size. I'm going to go and get my book, and I might just pause so I don't make a... Right, I've just got the book, and it's 18 stitches and 36 rows to 10 centimetres tension on a 4mm. And I've used the exact yarn because I just happened to have 2 balls, and it said 2 balls would do it. My work is actually smaller. I usually kind of knit to tension. Well, it's not that much smaller. Actually, I must have counted that wrong. It's a little bit shorter, which would mean, if it was bigger, I could see why I didn't have enough yarn. If I was making my work was coming out a little bit bigger, I could see why I'd run out of yarn, but it's actually a bit smaller. Unless that's like when blocked. So if it was when blocked, then it would probably block to that size. So it's probably right. And I haven't got enough yarn. I looked around on eBay and the internet, and it is a Rowan yarn, which I had. It's Cash Soft Double Knit, which is probably discontinued, so I'd probably be lucky to find it, and then I'd have to pay an arm and a leg for 1 ball just to do 6 rows. I have the option of having very similar yarn in other colours like greys and creams, so I could do the neckband in sort of a cream and then do some matching cream booties or something. Or I could just bite the bullet and wind it all back and make a size smaller, and then I probably would have enough to finish with. And it was quite an enjoyable knit until I came to the sleeve shaping. I don't know why that knocked me off, but I think it was because you can count your rows very much easier when you're working in stocking stitch, can't you? But when you're working in garter stitch, it's not so easy, so you have to kind of have it a row counter, even for 3 rows. That's why though, because it's 3 rows and not 4 rows, that I don't know how many rows I've done in between the decreases. Or a piece of paper, or memorise it, but then when you're watching something or doing something else at the same time, then that's a little bit more difficult. So it'll have to be just left until I decide what to do with it, and at some point, maybe even today, because we've had dreadful weather. Yesterday was foggy, today's foggy, and now it's raining. So I might go through all my patterns and try and find all the baby patterns. Yesterday, Helen and I went to the Durham Guild of Spinners, Weavers and Dyers.
Oh, it's painted on. Yes, that's where she is. Right. Oh, yes, well, I'm sure Alice will entertain.
The theme for this month was take your UFOs with you. So I think everything you've started is then a UFO, isn't it? Once you've started it, that becomes an unfinished object. So I took the baby blanket and lost up yarn chicken, and I took the cardigan, which was admired, but I did run out and it became another loss. But because we'd helped on the stall at the Northeast, was it the Northeast Yarn Show? Which was at Newcastle Racecourse. Because we'd helped out there, and the people who ordinarily would have been there were all a bit poorly. There was some virus that put a few people out of action. So on the Saturday, there was a couple of visitors who were from the guild, but there was one lady running it, and if it hadn't been for Helen and I, us newbies, she'd have been a bit stuck. So that was very much appreciated that we turned up, and also that Helen did most of the display, doing the little banners with the sheep breeds and the little samples and putting them together in an organised fashion. And then one of the other ladies, Julie, she helped set up the night before, and she had the inspiration to do the Swift with all these little samples on, which was very interactive and really sort of drew people to the stall, because we weren't just sat there with like things on display, and there was something interactive about it. So people, even if they didn't really want to talk to us, they'd come up and have a fiddle with it. So that was good. That was good. And yesterday there was a lady that we had been talking to who was really quite keen, and she came and had a kind of one-to-one spinning lesson at the guild. I would say if you wanted to learn to spin, if you don't spin already, joining your guild would be a really good idea. Because even yesterday, I didn't have my wheel with me, but I did ask a lady who was near me, who was spinning some, you know, the tops that you get that are already dyed. I was asking her about how you would spin that, because you get some tops that are dyed in big sections. So then she would try to keep those sections. Because when you spin it, then you ply it, don't you? And you could cross them over. And then there's the fractal spinning and things like that I don't properly understand yet. But this was just a fleece that had lots of colours through it. And it was coming up... Stop saying them. It was coming up like a yarn with just nice colours through it, if you know what I mean. It came out really pretty, and I was wondering, because I have some of that, I was wondering how to actually, whether to do anything special about spinning it or just to spin it. And she was just spinning it and it was coming out great, so that's good, isn't it? Anyway, because we helped, it was much appreciated. And obviously I had a board meeting and we got a gift, which was from the Adelaide Walker store. And we each got one of these to spin. So that was nice, wasn't it? Very kind of them. But we enjoyed it anyway. This is kind of, what do you call that, a mossy green. I shall have fun with this at some point. I'm on brown at the moment and haven't done any for a little while because, well, I haven't had much time either. But what time I have had, I've been working on these two projects. Right then, pets. Well, we've had a big week in Petland. As I mentioned last week, Lottie had to go to the vets to have some teeth out. Well, to have a tooth out. And didn't I know there was going to be more than one that came out? Because what they do is, once they can get inside the dog's mouth, they'll check them all, see what's wobbly. Apparently they've got a probe. Because they always ask me at my vets if I've got any questions. And I asked the veterinary nurse a question, and she said, I'll get the vet to speak to you. This was after the event. So the vet came in, and I went in the room with the vet. So they always give me some time and answer questions. So I'm quite happy. I am happy about that. Because they don't, a lot of places where you go for things, like my dentist. Well, you can't talk when you've got the hands in your mouth, can you? But I just feel that I do get a good service. And I was quoted a price for the dog to have a tooth out and to have this operation. And it was £100 less. That could be, though, I think, a bit of a trick. Because you're going in expecting it, even though it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds, you're expecting it to be more, and then it turns out being less, so then you're pleased, even though it's still hundreds of pounds, if you know what I mean. I feel slightly like I've been conned, but not really, because the day after, we went down on the beach and Lottie was just full of beans. I think she was really quite happy. She woke up going with the mouth. But she's been fine since, and she's been eating her food a little bit more enthusiastically, like a normal dog. She'll never be a normal dog, though. She's more like a cat. You know, our cat, I fed her yesterday, and she has Fur Boost gravy, and she has gravy on it, and she likes to drink from the pond in the garden, or pots. She likes rainwater, which is quite normal, isn't it, for animals. And if she gets gravy on her food, she doesn't have to go out for the rainwater. So yesterday, where I feed her, we've got a patio door. So I usually feed her and open the door so she can go out. But she likes to look out of the window, and you think she wants to go out, so you open the door, but you know what cats are like, so she doesn't go out when you open the door. So there was some food in a dish, and she looks at you because she wants the gravy on. So she's looking at me. I said, oh, all right. So I went in the fridge to get the gravy, and she was looking out the window. And then when I'd put the gravy in, she came back, and she looked in a dish, and she went, gravy, please. I was like, it's in there. I was like pointing, said, your gravy's in your dish. So I had to sort of get the gravy out again and go through the motions, because she'd missed it because she was looking out the window. I don't know. Anyway, because it's foggy and grotty, I thought I'd wear a shawl. And I think you've seen it before. But not everyone will have. So this is Bain de Soleil by Louise Robert. It's an enjoyable knit because you can see there's quite a lot of interest to it. Start off with stripes, and depending on your colours, these things are going to show up more. That's Suri alpaca, that's very, very, very soft. Then we've got more stripes, and then this is like a slip stitch where you pull a stitch up. It's one of my favourites. I would make this one again. And I don't necessarily like triangular shawls, but it's kind of like it's not too deep in the middle. So that's what I am wearing. And the picture on the pattern is in bright orange, black and white, and it's really quite striking, which is what caught my eye, I think, because it's all about colour, isn't it? So this is obviously a fancy hand-dyed. Oh, I can't remember whose it is. Flea Bulbs by Lala, I think. I think that's who that yarn was. So, I think I've told you everything I need to tell you this week. Did I tell you about Fee? Oh, maybe not. No, I have to tell you about Fee. Fee's still in France. She had, I think she must have had a raffle or an auction or something for a hat, one of the hats that she'd made. She made quite a bit of money, which is good, isn't it, for a charity? She's also been finishing things, and she finished this cardigan. And she finished a shawl. And now she's looking to play yarn chicken with some Debbie Bliss again. Some Debbie Bliss luxury sock yarn. Because she hasn't quite got a full ball and she wants to make, I think it's a hat she wants to make. So she's asked around, and I think that's discontinued and she can't find it. It's in a greeny shade and I haven't got any. I have part balls of it because I've made socks with it, and it's really nice to make socks with. I actually couldn't tell you for certain that it's discontinued. Maybe it's that colourway that's discontinued. One of them said it was. So, good luck, Fee, with that. Hope you win your yarn chicken game. Or find some more. So any ideas on what to do with my baby cardigan, please let me know before I won't pull it back yet. What I'll try and do is do my pink edging on the blanket while I'm mulling over what I'm going to do about the cardigan. I really need to get on with the baby things. So now I've told you everything I need to tell you, I think. So, more news, maybe next week.